Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here with leaders of the maritime industry, and we should be joined, hopefully, by the Congressman Cedric Richmond, but we're also joined by Robert Clemens, the Chief Operating Officer for Marine Service Association, who will follow my remarks. Louisiana's navigable waterway network of over 2,800 miles is second only to that of Alaska. That's the distance from New York City to San Francisco. On this vast network of water, Louisiana handles more waterborne commerce than any other state, moving more than 500 million tons of domestic and foreign cargo. According to a new study commissioned by the Transportation Institute and conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers, Louisiana's 54,850 maritime jobs pump more than $1.4 million into our state's economy annually. Maritime is one of the largest industries in Louisiana, only behind oil and gas and agriculture. The study has also found that the state ranks first in the country in maritime jobs per capita. 1 in every 83 jobs connected to the state's domestic maritime industry, nearly twice that of any other state. The lower Mississippi River is home to the largest port complex in the world, connecting 31 states through 14,500 miles of inland waterways. Approximately 25% of America's domestic energy is produced offshore, and the oil and gas industry depends on over 1,200 specialized vessels in the U.S. These vessels perform seismic research, drill test wells, lay pipe, transport, install production facilities. They continuously supply these facilities with personnel, fuel, equipment, tools, drilling mud, food, water, and plug wells and decommission platforms at the end of their production cycle. But we wouldn't be standing here today to tout this economic prowess in the maritime industry if it weren't for the Jones Act. The Jones Act is a jobs act, pure and simple. Just a few short years ago, the Department of Homeland Security routinely, and in my view, abusively, approved waivers to this Jones Act. And I have seen firsthand, and our people have felt, the negative impacts of those hastily and unnecessary contrived waivers. Instead of utilizing our highly experienced and capable domestic manufacturers, waiving the Jones Act literally hands over work to foreign shipping companies, taking economic opportunity away from our people in the Gulf Coast. This is the exact opposite of what we should be doing to create jobs and improve and strengthen our economy in Louisiana, and for that matter, in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. In 2011, I sent a letter to the President criticizing the administration for the use of foreign vessels to transport crude oil within the U.S. during the ongoing Strategic Petroleum Reserve drawdown. The letter urged use of domestic vessels and domestic seafarers as required in the Jones Act in order to create and maintain jobs here at home. Last year, I introduced the American Mariners Job Protection Act, which would help restrict Jones Act waivers, improve transparency in the whole program, and prevent maritime work from going to foreign companies. I'm proud to say that between 2012 and today, we have received just 5 waivers, a sharp reduction in the number previously awarded. And as chair of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Homeland Security, I took the opportunity last month to specifically ask DHS Secretary Jay Johnson for his position on the Jones Act and Jones Act waivers. I'm pleased to say that he has not granted one waiver since that hearing, and he testified at that hearing the importance of limiting, if not eliminating, these waivers, and he has so far held to his word. Because of my strong interest in ensuring that this country maintains a robust domestic shipbuilding industry, I will continue to do all that I can to ensure the Jones Act is properly enforced and Louisiana's maritime interests are well protected. This not only continues to be one of my top priorities as Chair of Homeland Security, but also as Chair of the Energy Committee. And I am joined with many members of the Senate and the House on both sides of the aisle that support the Jones Act. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Robert Clemens, who, as I said, is Chief Operating Officer of Secor, one of our largest companies. He's held this position since June of '07. The company formed to manage Secor's lifeboat operation. Prior to that position, he was based in the UK offices of Secor. He holds a degree from Texas Tech. We won't hold that against him, but he graduated with honors, and we're happy to have him lead this association. Robert.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much indeed. As chairman of the Offshore Marine Service Association, I can say that our industry is very proud to play this very important role in Louisiana's thriving and robust domestic maritime industry, which is underpinned by the bedrock law commonly referred to as the Jones Act. With more than 25% of America's domestic energy being produced offshore, and with the offshore oil and gas industry dependent upon the thousands of specialized vessels in the U.S. fleet to undertake seismic research, drilling activities, construction activities, production, and decommissioning, Louisiana is not only the birthplace of, but also is our nation's lifeline to offshore energy. Once again, thank you, Senator Landrieu. And supported by the Jones Act, Louisiana's maritime complex will continue to play a proud and significant role in America's economic and national security. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to have each of the gentlemen standing behind me just come up and just introduce yourself so the press knows that you're here.
My name is Otto Candies III with Otto Candies LLC.
I'm Robert Vosbean, General Counsel with Harvey Gulf International Marine.
I'm Bob Gwynn. I'm the president of Harvey Gulf International Marine, and we're presently building $1 billion worth of equipment in the United States.
David Rosenwasser, Gulfmark Offshore. I'm Chief Operating Officer, and we're currently building about $250 million in the U.S.
And I'm Rick Safier, General Counsel for Gulfmark Offshore.
Any questions?
Thank you, Senator, for holding this conference. I have a couple of questions. One is on the, there's been some calls from the refining industry to lift the Jones Act in response to their concerns that there just aren't enough ships to move around their products. And number two, I'd like to hear from some of the executives about how potentially lifting the ban on crude oil exports could affect your business.
Well, as I've stated, I think those two issues are quite separate. I am a strong supporter of exports of our crude as well as liquefied natural gas. I'd like either the association or one of the builders of these vessels to talk about how we can meet that need domestically.
Good catch. I'll field this on behalf of OMSA, not necessarily on behalf of my company, but I would say more on behalf of the industry. I think a lot of the traders, refiners, et cetera, obviously I would say at times live in a soundbite world. They ask for things like lifting of the Jones Act without taking into account the billions upon billions of dollars that something like the Jones Act, a bedrock legislation that has been here basically since the beginning of our country, and supports hundreds of thousands of jobs. It supports our ability to support the U.S. military, and that with the shipbuilding capacity in the United States, if the Jones Act is lifted, as you put it, all of this goes away almost overnight.
No, I don't feel any pressure, but it helps to remind everyone every so often, or remind our country how important the maritime industry is and the shipbuilding industry is to the industrial base of America. And that's basically the purpose of this press conference. There's a study that's come out that's shown today. We will be releasing some new details of the PricewaterhouseCoopers study that shows not only how important it is to Louisiana, but to other states as well. And we want to maintain that industrial base here. America has lost some of its industrial and manufacturing powers and industries. Textile industries have almost completely left this country, and you can point to other industries. We were smart to save the auto manufacturing industry, which took a huge combination of government and private sector effort to do that. We want to maintain what we have in our maritime industry here and build on it, and we can do that. The Jones Act should not only should not be repealed or minimized, but it could be strengthened. And I think there are policies that we could, put into place over time to not only maintain what we have, but to build additional shipbuilding capacity right here in the United States. And it's going to take a combination of vigilance to the Jones Act, but it's also going to take some investments into some of our ports, which you hear not only me speaking about quite regularly, but you also hear Lamar Alexander and Senator Feinstein and Patty Murray and Lindsey Graham. We just had a hearing, maybe it was even in this room, on this subject. America's got to invest in the infrastructure and then maintain a robust shipbuilding maritime industry. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You're not detecting any pressure to repeal the Jones Act?
No.
Detecting any from Capitol Hill or the administration to weaken it in any way?
Well, let me just say that there have been in the past efforts, I think, to ask for waivers when they weren't absolutely necessary, to seek relief when it was not absolutely necessary. And I just want to send a signal that I'm going to be, and others, very vigilant about adhering to the Jones Act, which is a Jobs Act, which is the bedrock of a very important part of our industrial base, and how proud I am as a senior senator from Louisiana of many of these companies that move goods, cargo, and can do it efficiently, effectively, and at very competitive cost. And that is an important industry for this country. And yes, it's very important to Louisiana, but there are many, many states, inland and coastal states, that benefit greatly from this industry. All right, one last question.
The Energy Information Administration recently put out a note about how the Jones Act and the lack of ships available is actually one of the key reasons that gasoline prices in Florida are going up. With that example, do you think there are examples where the Jones Act, because there's not enough ships right now, could be increasing energy prices in the U.S. and is there a way to address that?
I would have to look at that study, but part of Florida's problem is it doesn't permit pipelines fast enough. And so before Florida criticizes other people for not delivering goods, they could, produce more oil and gas themselves if they would open up drilling, and they could lay their pipelines faster. So, there are all sorts of reasons why energy is not moving from where it's produced to where it needs to be supplied. And, and ships may be a part of it, but I'd have to go back and analyze it. All I can tell you is we can build a lot of them, can't we, guys? and we will, and we build them on time, under budget, and we are ready and more than willing to build the ships that this country needs to move all sorts of products back and forth. But our country has to support that and not undermine it with weak and unsubstantiated arguments to the contrary. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.